Good morning. Again, my name is Maureen Fisher. I am the Vice President of Downtown Services for the Portland Business Alliance and the Executive Director of Downtown Portland Clean and Safe. Thank you for joining us today. The focus is going to be on reactivating Portland's Central City. The heart of Portland's city center is one of the economic drivers for the region and state at large, and I really am excited to hear from today's panelists. Everyone here at the Alliance hopes that you are doing well and enjoying these really lovely days. As we continue to wait on the rolling out of COVID-19 vaccinations for everyone, we encourage everyone to please continue the important work of physical distancing, and let's all do our part to contain this virus by wearing our masks. With ongoing COVID-19 updates and new regulations, our teams continue to work diligently in serving as a resource to our community. Our website is updated frequently. And you can follow us on social media for updates. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and elsewhere. A recording of this presentation and links for resources mentioned will be available on our website later today. Of course, none of these events could happen without the support of our members. We also have some incredible sponsors that I would like to thank today. Thank you to our Forum Series sponsors, KeyBank and the Portland Tribune. Joining us today from KeyBank is Michelle Weisenbach. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Maureen, and welcome everyone. I'm Michelle Weisenbach, the president of KeyBank here in Oregon and Southwest Washington, and thank you so much for joining us today. At last month's meeting, we talked about resilience during crisis. And this month, we'll be putting those theories to the test as we dig into the vital topic of restoring Portland's shine. This year has taken a toll on all of us individually and each of us collectively in a myriad of ways. And our beloved Portland Rose City hasn't been immune from those challenges. KeyBank has always been proud of its downtown location, and for 30 plus years, I have been honored to be a member of the urban workforce swept up in the vitality of this energetic and effective city. In fact, many of you may remember when Portland adopted the slogan, "The City That Works" in 1995. And in my heart, I still believe that Portland is a city that works, and know that as we come together as business leaders, we will engage tirelessly to help it regain its luster. That's because our shared success hinges on the revitalization of the city's core as the economic driver for both the region and the state. Our mission at KeyBank is to help our communities thrive, and today that includes the effort that faces all of us in helping the businesses and the people of Portland recover and recommit to our joint success. Today, I'm especially grateful to the Portland Business Alliance for assuming a lead role in continuing and starting conversations as we tackle the many roadblocks we face. We appreciate your commitment to helping mobilize this vibrant business community as we work together to the city's next chapter. And back to you, Maureen, to help us through this presentation.
Thank you, Michelle. I'd also like to thank the Portland Tribune. Joining us today from the Tribune is Dana Haynes. Dana?
Thank you very much. I'm speaking on behalf of Mark Garber, our publisher and president, who is at conflict. I'm the managing editor. And full disclosure, my wife, Katie King, and I live in the Ladd Tower downtown at Southwest Park in Jefferson, 2 blocks from where arrests were made last night for vandalism. We shop at Safeway, we browse Nordstrom's, we drink coffee at Cafe Umbria. Our neighborhood bookstore is the finest English language bookstore on earth, and Palace doesn't even have any real competition for that honor. So this topic is near and dear to my heart. The Portland Tribune followed closely the last year of devastating news, the pandemic and its economic downturn, the largely peaceful protests over Black Lives Matters, as well as the arson, larceny, and vandalism that often followed, the smoke from last summer's wildfires, which choked the downtown in darkness. These have been difficult times. But we've also closely followed the good news, the efforts to clean up the city center, the Portland Art Museum's upcoming show of Ansel Adams photography, Sarah Architects relocating to the old Galleria building. The Timbers and the Thorns are back at Providence Park. We can't fill the bleachers just yet, thanks to the pandemic, but the fanatical fans, they're as loud and proud as ever. The pandemic has even had its silver linings. more people using flex hours, fewer commuting by car. The air quality's improved. My wife and I are enjoying the outdoor dining more than I could possibly tell you. And not for nothing, but we apparently found a cure for flu season. It just simply didn't happen this year. Portland has been through much, but that's been true before, and it'll be true again in the future. It is a resilient city. And the Portland Tribune and Pamplin Media Group will be here to cover the bad times and also the good times. We thank the Portland Business Alliance for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you again for your continued support. I'd also like to thank the University of Oregon for being an event sponsor for this month's forum. I'd like to introduce now our board chair of the Portland Business Alliance, Mike Golub, President of Business for the Portland Timbers and Thorns. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy days to join us for this very important topic, reactivating Portland's urban core and central city. We hope to have ample time for questions and we welcome them. But please, when you do, use the Q&A tool at the bottom of your Zoom window. Give us your name, your organization, and where your organization is located. But feel free also to, in real time, use the chat and comment section during the presentation. We've got a great panel and a great moderator, and it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Jane Gordon, the University of Oregon's Vice Provost for Portland. Jane, the floor is yours.
What we've learned this year is unmute. So sorry I didn't just then. I'm thrilled to be hosting this panel or moderating this panel today. It's an incredibly important topic. It's probably not the only time we'll be talking about this, but it's a really good time to start and to dig in and to recognize where we are and some of the things that people are doing and thoughts about what we should be doing. So let's welcome our panel. We have Jessica Curtis, the General Manager with Pioneer Place. There's Jessica, hi. Jim Mark, the CEO with the Melvin Mark Company. Hi, Jim. Jordan Carter, owner and designer with Produce Portland. Hey, Jordan. And Judy Duncan, the principal broker with the Duncan Group. There she is, that's our panel. So we're going to start with just some brief introductions and having everyone share their favorite thing about Portland's central city. So Jessica, let's start with you.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm Jessica Curtis, the General Manager for Pioneer Place, as well as a Portland native. I took the position here in late October, and my favorite thing about Portland Central City is that really I have made so many awesome memories in this city. You know, my parents actually met dragging Broadway. I took ballet classes in the Masonic Temple, you know, Littman Cinnamon Bear Breakfast, Quest Nightclub, and the list goes on. I really built my resume up and down the I-5 corridor, always planning on returning to Portland. And it's my hope that future generations can create similar memories here in the Central City. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks, Jessica. Okay, Jordan, how about you? Can you introduce yourself and tell us your favorite thing about Portland Central City?
Oh, hey, Jordan Carter, one of the owners and the main designer at Produce Portland. I'm actually also a Portland native, UO alumni, so I'm with the University of Oregon, born and raised in Portland. I've probably been working in the downtown area for the last 6 years, managing another retail store and then starting Produce in July of 2019. So I actually opened right before everything happened. So very interesting to go through that and kind of make it through it and shift and pivot.
What's your favorite thing? Other than the ducks. I mean, you can say the Ducks. Go ahead if you want to.
Actually, I have a different sports team, unfortunately. But my favorite thing, though, would be, I think, the community and diversity in Portland. I think that's one of the main reasons I didn't move and open a business somewhere else or start my career somewhere else is the fact that I do love Portland. So I think that would be the best thing I love about it is just the diversity in the community aspect of it.
Thanks, Jordan. Okay, Jim.
Thanks, Jane, and thanks for giving me the opportunity this morning. I'm looking forward to the conversation and looking forward to working with the other panelists. I'm Jim Mark. I'm CEO of the Melvin Mark Companies. I've been in commercial real estate now for 40 years. I graduated from Lincoln High School, so right downtown, spent a lot of time downtown. My grandfather first invested in downtown Portland in 1945 and fell in love with Portland. And my dad raised our whole family in Portland. And I raised my family, 4 kids that are all in Portland, all went to Lincoln High School as well. My favorite thing around the city is always the being able to get around the city. And I'm a motorcycle enthusiast, but I ride a scooter during the summer, and I ride from one end of the city to the other. And I think what was said before, I love the outdoor dining, and I love the opportunity to see people around the city, either 23rd or on the divisions, on Southeast Division. It's just amazing how the city has expanded all the way through, and how the city interconnects and the neighborhoods interconnect.
And Judy.
Hi, I'm happy to be here as well. And I am a native Oregonian. I grew up in Forest Grove, which is 16 miles west, if you don't know where that is. And I made a career for myself by specializing in condominium resales in the Pearl District for the past 25 years. And it's been good to me. I'm very involved in the Neighborhood Association, and recently the Pearl District Business Association, as well as I'm becoming very involved in the Public Safety Action Coalition for all of the city. And the thing that I love the most about Portland is I'm really going to date myself now. I was probably one of those dragging Broadway before you were born. And when we would come to Portland to visit, it was a big deal. Mom would bring my sister and I in, and we would come shop for our school clothes here. Myron Frank, the fabrics department, the piano downstairs where you could listen to the guy playing the piano and buy the sheet music. Fond memories. It was very exciting. The lights of the Paramount Theater, the lights of the Fox Theater, and those are still with me. But most of all, what I do love about Portland is its spirit. The spirit will carry us far, and it's the people here that come together to work for a common good. So those are my favorite things.
Those were really fun to listen to, and diverse and interesting. And now we're going to shift just a little bit to talk about a little bit harder topics and how we're addressing them. So all of us know that Portland's taken many hits over the last year, most significantly the impacts of the pandemic, wildfires, and political violence. So the question that I'm going to ask you is, first, what advice do you have for businesses and community members as they face this transitional time and working on rebuilding? And if you can, talk about where your efforts are most focused when it comes to conversations about rebuilding. Where are you having those conversations? How are they happening? Is there a need for more structure around those? Let's start with you, Jim.
Thanks, Jane. And, I'd sort of be remiss of sort of giving a little bit of history, because I've been so actively involved the last year in a lot of efforts that are going around. I'm the former chair of the Portland Business Alliance, but I've been working with Portland Business Alliance and been working with a lot of the business community in all different sectors. COVID really did the first punch to the city. And I always sort of start a little bit with my conversation on that, because I think it's really important that it really shut down our city. And central cities and cities in general rely on people going back and forth and activity, whether it's restaurants or businesses, or whether Jessica's retail. We all depend on having people activated in the core. So that was really a difficult sort of 1-2 punch. And then, of course, we had, the rioting that we had downtown over a long period of time. And it really, our retailers and people that counted on those crowds not only didn't have the crowds, but now they, had basically a fear involved with coming into the core of town. And whether it's real or perceived, perception's most of the battle. And I come into my office as I am today almost every day. So I would say there's more perception. I'm around the central city. I go to lunch, and I try to use our central city to reactivate it. But there's lots of activities that are going on and around to try to reactivate. The biggest thing is the consciousness of a lot of our elected officials on what's happening and how to help. And we deactivated a lot of the public safety things that people count on. So we've been working on a number of calls to sort of to reinvigorate that. The conversations really are, I think, getting more people involved than just people like me that are constantly at the table. It's getting small retailers. Judy, represents a lot of the people that live downtown. I don't do, we don't do anything that has to do with living, but I think one of the silver linings is there's conversations that have been happening now that typically didn't happen 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Conversations with diverse people, diverse interests, diverse businesses. More and more, we're sort of starting to reconnect. And I think in the long term, again, we're in a, I think we're at the light at the end of the tunnel, but we're in a dark part of where Portland's been. But I look forward to those people working together. And I guess I can only explain that I think things get better as we all work together, not as we work siloed. And again, probably 50% of the time that I spend every day is now working on trying to rebuild the city and efforts to reconnect people. So, that part of it, I'm pretty thankful for.
Thank you. There's a lot in that in terms
Sorry.
of no, what you're seeing and what you're doing and the conversations you're having. Judy, how about you?
You hit the nail on the head, Jim, when you said changing perceptions. I'm the chair of the Livability and Safety Committee in the Pearl District, and I constantly get emails from people concerned about the homeless that we have happening in our city and in our neighborhood as well. And what people don't know, I think what we need to work on is the good works that are being done currently in the wake of everything going on. There's good work being done. We do a tent count every month in the Pearl District. I know that your downtown neighborhood association, which I'm also crossing over in to be informed on what's going on in downtown. The tent count is diminishing, and we currently are working on designated spots. I know that the tent campers are a big deterrent to people coming to the area. It's not only the safety issues of people being assaulted, but it is the tent campers, which are an unsightly nuisance, if you will. But there are good things being done, such as Adopt One Block is very progressive. I think they've adopted 144 blocks in Portland now. People need to know the good things that are happening. There's too much emphasis on all the negativity. So we need to work on changing perceptions. And I would suggest to business owners that they get involved, attend the neighborhood association meetings. There's lots of good work being done by these central city neighborhood associations.
Okay, thank you. And Jessica.
Hi. Yeah, here, our focus really has been on getting our restaurants, the theater and the entertainment uses opening and operating with the COVID restrictions. I think right now the restaurant is 25% capacity inside or 100 people. So if you've got, a large format restaurant, wait staff, service staff, and cook could, get you to that 100% capacity pretty quick. So just, coming up with some creative solutions that some of these traffic drivers, would benefit, or, that the community would benefit from having these traffic drivers open. So working with the operators here and just, getting creative on how we can do so with the restrictions in place. We're also really focusing on the existing traffic that has started to come back. We did see a few positive increases the last few weeks, starting actually with spring break in March. And so that's, regional travelers looking for great tax-free shopping, as well as locals who were doing staycations, and the weather was fantastic. So it seemed to bring about more of each. And so really, being a building owner, we were really trying to do all we can to keep our house in order, cleaning sidewalks daily, graffiti removal weekly, as well as taking steps in dealing with the virus, such as, increasing our air filtration systems, increasing the cleaning of high touch areas and whatnot, just because it seems like that's, had a pretty good impact.
Thank you. So we go from the big Pioneer Place to Jordan's little smaller shop. Jordan,
Yep.
what are you seeing? What are the conversations that you're hearing and being part of?
Right now, since we're located on 4th and Davis, and we're right next door to a methadone clinic, we've definitely dealt with a lot of houselessness, a lot of vandalism. We've seen a lot just in our neighborhood specifically, but the one piece of advice that I would give, that also we use as a team and what has gotten us to this point, is just being fluid. And that is in the sense of understanding that, yes, these are external forces that are current and we have to deal with them today. But as a community, I think Old Town has come together with the OTCA, PBOT, all the businesses involved. And we've just kind of banded together to get through it and start helping each other out, no matter what that may be, whether that's a collaboration, whether that's an outdoor market event. I think PBOT just granted us a summer-long street closure, which then actually deemed our street private property, and so now we're able to move some of the tents down a block, which helps our business. So instead of shutting down at the first sign of trouble, we've always continued conversations with people to see what we can do, what resources are out there. And so I think it begins with understanding that you do have to ask questions, and you can't just shut down at the first no. And you do have to just start reaching out to these different organizations that sometimes do have a bad stigma, but at the end of the day, those conversations are what leads you to the point of being able to resolve some of the current issues. So I think being fluid in that sense and understanding that it's not going to be solved overnight is the best piece of advice I can give anyone. And then in terms of where our efforts are going is community driven. Like I said, PBOT just granted us that street closure. And so we throw a huge market event for safe and healthy business outdoors. So we have probably 50 to 60 vendors throughout the entire parking lot on 4th and Davis. We closed down 4th, we closed down Davis. So we're able to pretty much take over the entire neighborhood and allow locals to sell goods, food. We have live music. So it's a way to get the community to come down and then also just build our community to be even stronger.
Thanks. Well, those are lots of different images that I'm really happy to have you share. So really quickly, we know, and some of you referred to this, that we've heard a narrative has been heard by many that Portland's on fire and a place to be avoided, that Central City. So do we think that's accurate? Where did that perception come from? And just really quickly on this, because we do want to pivot back to talking about things that people are doing, but is it accurate? I mean, you're hearing Jordan describe the street fairs and Jessica's, they're open, and I'm just kind of curious whether that's an accurate perception, or is it a perception that has to be changed, or a little bit of both? What are your thoughts? Let's start with Judy this time. You're muted still.
We need to, you're exactly right, that it is not accurate. The sensationalism is the thing that draws people to read it or listen to it. And the messaging needs to be very clear about what is happening. We have a very bad reputation right now across the country, and I'm working at the mayor's table on reputation and branding. And so we are working very hard to, again, talk about the good things that are happening. Let's focus on what good things are being done right now. And Jim, you're right. I was not as filled in as you on Adopt One block I was way off. 2,000 blocks are adopted already. So see, those are the things that should be discussed, not the sensationalism, the things that draw people's attention.
Jessica, how do you see it?
Hi. Well, last week I certainly would have answered this question differently because last Friday our building literally was on fire. So, when I talk to my neighbors and I live in Portland, and when I told them that I pulled an overnight shift putting out a fire at my place of business, many hadn't heard of it. Many weren't surprised by it, and they were a little ambivalent. And so now we're hoping that this, was a one-time, event. I don't know what to say about about it going forward. We're dealing with it. We are open. We're welcoming people back. And so, I think that, we will continue to have these events, and we're hoping that the time and distance between them is more and more with each passing day. But I think that some of it is, some of it is reality, some of it's perception, some of it's glorified, in the media. And so, I try to take a walk during my lunch breaks when I'm able to, a couple times a week, and I'll just take pictures of things that I see around town. The cherry blossoms, we're just out a couple weeks ago. It depends what direction I go is what I capture, and I'll throw that out in my social media feed so that, my friends and loved ones across the country are seeing what I see on a day-to-day basis. We show up to work 5 days a week in downtown Portland, and it's just from a different perspective than what they're seeing on the national news outlets. So I think that that's kind of an interesting thing to do. Maybe other can create a hashtag or something, but just so that people are seeing it, from our lens, from our good, bad, and different.
So Jessica, your sound has been a little in and out, but I think we caught most of what you said. I think what you basically said was, yes, it's kind of on fire. I'm hoping the fires become less frequent and there's a lot of good things happening.
Thank you.
Okay. Jordan, what do you think it's accurate to describe Portland as being on fire? And if not, where do you think that perception comes from, or what would you say about that?
I think it isn't accurate to a certain degree, but also there is some truth to it. I don't think what's being portrayed is accurate in terms of the national media outlets, because I've had vendors call me. Some of my accounts are in New York and LA, and they'll ask me, I think one account wanted to switch from net 30 to prepaid because they didn't think we would last. So I definitely think that's an issue for some businesses, especially mine, where I'm dealing with apparel and buyers and vendors. So that narrative hurts us in a sense, as well as a lot of people that I just know because I traveled a lot, and a lot of my clients are out of town. They'll just say, I don't want to come to Portland because all I see on the media is city's on fire. I've been downtown since July 2019. I work 6 days a week. So I see really what it looks like. And so, yes, there were some bad parts of it, but what's being portrayed, I don't think is accurate to the degree that they're portraying it.
So it's exaggerated? Is that kind of?
Yeah, I think it is very exaggerated to the point where he thought my store was on fire. And I had to tell him I'm nowhere near what they portrayed.
Right. Yeah.
And he thought I went out of business. So
yeah, that is really interesting, right? It's people thinking there's no point in doing business with you if you're not gonna
be there. Yeah. So
yeah. And Jim,
I think Jordan hit it really well, and I've had some of the same conversations with people from around the country, and again, I use perception and reality quite a bit in this discussion. There is some reality about the fire, and Jessica told about the fire she dealt with last night. We had a meth lab catch on fire out at Hayden, a project out in Hayden Island, and burn. It was on the side of our building, and caught it on fire. And I do think the elected officials are a little naive with some of the activity that's going around our city. And we need basically response that's a heavier response to some of the activity. And again, my heart goes out to the homeless situation, and I do not want to seem cold in any way, because people's strife and mental illness and drug abuse in our city is obviously very prevalent. But to the end that we can pull people off the streets, even in a triage, like a tent activity or something where we can get people help, I think we need to do it to allow people on the street and some of this activity. Again, let's not put our head in the sand. You know, when a mobile meth clinic goes up on fire out at Hayden Island, we should get attention to that. That could do severe damage. We've seen arsonists around the city. It's a serious cause. On the other side of it, exactly what Jordan said, there's good activity going on. And, you know, again, I'm 2 blocks from the Justice Center. I come down every single day. I walk every street. I scooter around the city. I don't feel the threat that I think the national media puts in front of all of us. But I do think it's sort of, we need to deal with the problems that are in front of us. And most of the people on this call have spent a lot of time on this. It's time for everybody else in Portland, I think, to demand some solutions to some problems that I think we can solve, not easily, but over time, and come up with some remedies.
Well, that leads into our next question. What does need to happen for Portland to feel vibrant, to feel safe, to have the better parts of what we're all talking about amplified and supported? And in particular, what can the people on this call be doing? What are activities that you're seeing? Some of you have mentioned them already in some of your answers, but if there are things that you know are happening, we know maybe someone can talk a little bit more, Judy, or someone else can talk a little bit more about the mayor's tables or different activities, the Adopt a Block, anything like that you are seeing happening that people could be like, oh, that is something that I could get involved with. So Jordan, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, I would agree. Very similar to what Jim said. I think we need to begin portraying the good that is going on in Portland. I think that's definitely a start to it. Just for example, our market events are extremely successful. Almost every attendee during COVID made anywhere from $500 to $1,500 in one day, just because that many people came to support. And I think people are looking to support the city, but there's no way to actually support businesses in a safe and healthy manner up until now, I feel like. I think Our Way was one of the ways of doing it. I know a couple other programs, but I think it begins with broadcasting more about what is going on in Portland and the things you can do in Portland, the things that are working for the different businesses in Portland. I think there just needs to be more light shed on the people who are doing good for the city. Yes, we do need to pay attention to the fire, the vandalism, the houselessness, but I think also the media needs to start paying more attention to the people who are trying to help rebuild our city, because I think they have a voice. And a lot of my friends I know of are running different organizations like the SEI. I know some of the owners over there. I know a few organizations that are doing a lot for the city that I feel like don't have any media presence at all, but I know they're doing the best they can. And I think in particular, what can we do is just to show up. E-commerce is a beast in itself. And so if you are a brick and mortar store, then the best way to get sales is in person. And so I just feel like as we can start broadcasting and promoting, go outside and go visit these locations, that'll help those businesses as well, because e-commerce is a beast. I've tried it and it's not something you can easily pivot to. But in terms of our markets, we on average saw almost a 300-400% increase in sales anytime we did a market. And so it's getting people to your store is more important right now. I think so, personally.
Okay, so it sounds like make sure it is safe, and then make sure everyone knows that you're open and open for business and get there. Yeah, I was thinking the other day about just all the Amazon trucks on the streets, and I'm not innocent of that, but during COVID, feeling like, okay, the only way I can shop is let's have someone deliver things. We got to get back out there. I know people are doing it, but Jim.
Piggyback on Jordan again, support each other. I mean, we're all in this together, and that phrase gets tossed around quite a bit, but you know, one thing I've banded together with a lot of my competition in commercial real estate, whether it's Vanessa Sturgeon or Patrick Gilligan, Tom Kilbane, Jessica, we're trying to help each other. We're competitors in one way, but we also need to help each other and support each other. One of the things that Patrick Gilligan with Lincoln Properties came up with was a deal where, you know, you give your employees so much voucher for meals during these times. The restaurants need the business, and we can all go. I mean, I hate to admit it, but I've used Chipotle quite a bit during this downturn. I can get a 10-minute lunch. I can run up there and go grab it back again. You know, I'm not proud of it. But when I have a little bit of time, I'm using all the restaurants downtown other than Chipotle now that they're open again, and trying to even do takeout with them. And that goes all the way through. You know, Jessica's businesses up there could use a hand. So take some time, walk through the different projects when you're downtown. Again, we're all in this together. And the more we look at it and join hands and look at our common good versus our differences, I think we'll come out of this a lot stronger. So,
Judy, thanks, Jim. You're muted.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I am going to advocate again for the crossover between the downtown, between the business associations and the neighborhood associations. If you think about it, the residents, and we're heavier on residents than the downtown area is compared to the ratio of businesses. But the residents of a neighborhood want the vibrancy of the businesses. I mean, there's really nothing here for us if our businesses are not successful. So we have we're doing more crossover between the neighborhood association, which strongly supports our businesses, and the businesses relying on us. Something that we have that is very effective is the foot patrol. And I say more eyes on the street are better livability. The more people we observe, we see criminal activity, we report it. That to use your neighborhood association as a reliable source to help you in your endeavors. We have a program right now, Bringing Business Back. It started back in November, just before we were shut down for the third time, where we bought gift certificates to many of the eateries and coffee shops to encourage people even from the suburbs to come back. And the people that come to Portland to give business, to patronize the businesses, are not just downtown people. They're coming from all of the outside, and people need to know that it's okay to come back and visit the businesses. So just more of that, more collaboration, and also reaching out to get involved. What we encourage businesses to do is to get involved in our clean team and our graffiti removal. We have an event this Saturday that are the 5 neighborhood associations within the city to come together and clean graffiti. Now, this type of outreach is very helpful because people meet other people and you talk, and it creates a vibrancy. So more getting out and being with other people is what it's going to take, and learning from one another and not giving up.
I'm going to invite Jessica to answer too, but I'm also just curious whether there is any site that people can go to find these kinds of activities. So is it on, well, I'll let you answer, then I'll ask another question about that.
Sure, you bet. I agree with Judy. We need more traffic in the core, a bit more of a critical mass. I think that that's naturally going to come when offices start opening back up, that daytime traffic. And then for locals, you know, as the different arts and culture venues start to open, that'll give locals more of a reason to visit. Portlanders, including businesses and individuals, you know, similar, kind of like Jim was saying, we need to show up and we need to be voting with our dollars now. I too also try to eat out with maybe too much frequency, because I want to make sure that those restaurants, will be here as we turn this COVID corner too. And so I think that, while offices aren't here, maybe there's business owners or building operators, who can encourage their local workforce to, come downtown and spend time. And I'm just super blessed to be working right now. So, spend some time and dollars patroning these local businesses, because when they do come back to work, the downtown experience is the key selling point, I'm sure, for their initial want to be here. So also retailers, just so you guys know, we spoke a little bit about Amazon, but retailers have really shifted, the way that they're doing business right now. So you can buy items online and pick them up curbside. So, if you're not comfortable going inside a store, a lot of locations provide that option. You can buy online and pick up it on in store, if you don't want to spend too much time inside of a venue, that they a lot of locations offer that too. And when you do, many locations will offer this. When you do purchase online and pick up curbside or in store, that local store gets the credit for that sale. So you're not, supporting a location, like an online purchase versus a location specific purchase. So, Amazon isn't going anywhere. And if you really want a vibrant downtown as we come out of COVID and start turning the corner, we should be supporting businesses now, here now. And so in addition to eating out and shopping here, I do support downtown in other ways as well. We sit on 2 of the action tables. We have a representation on events and the business success and job creation tables. There's 2 additional ones, and I think there's a lot linked to the all 4 in the chat. We also are signed up for the next Solve Cleanup event for downtown, which is on the 29th. We're a member of the Downtown Retail Council, and we amplify the Here for Portland campaign messaging through our marketing efforts. So that's how we're showing up and what we think that Portlanders need to do to show up too.
Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, looking in the chat, someone put in a couple different things. So Amy wrote that they're developing the hereforportland.com as a place for much of gathering this kind of work in the future, which is part of one of the mayor's action tables. Jim noted that the Rose City Downtown Collective is, he put their website in there that's working on different issues. And there's some other questions that we can get to when we get to the question period. As one of the sponsors, I didn't give a spiel at the beginning, but I'm just going to say something now about just because I wanted to let people know about this. So the U of O, many of you know the U of O has been in Portland since 1884 when we first opened a law school, and we're still here. And we offer great graduate degree programs. But one of the things we were looking for is a way to support undergraduate students connecting with this great city and in return do some things that would be helpful. So this coming summer will be the beginning of the Portland internship experience. And it is funded philanthropically so that we are offering interns to 30 different sites this year. And this year, the theme is the Student Recovery Corps, and it's focusing on areas such as social justice, community building, racial equity, or economic recovery. And the interns are getting $5,000 as a stipend from our philanthropic donors and participating for 10 weeks with various small businesses and organizations. So just a little UO Portland shout out there as something that we're trying to do. Excuse me. So we have 5 more minutes before it gets to questions. And I'm wondering, maybe just a really quick, what's making you hopeful as you think about the city? And then I know that there's a bunch of questions in the chat. So what's making you hopeful? Judy? Muting.
This very activity, people coming together and talking about ideas and creating an energy. And I know I'm not the only person in this city that loves this city and is determined, and I'm here for the duration, and I know that others are too. And working together, we'll find solutions. So I'm very encouraged about the conversations that I am a part of, and I'm very hopeful, and I feel good things happening.
Jim.
I'd probably echo a lot of what Judy just said is, first of all, I'm in commercial real estate. I've spent 40 years doing this. You can't be a pessimist and be in our business. It just doesn't really work. If you're a pessimist, you should really give up and do something else. But you just keep on digging in. It's hard work. I mean, cities go through periods of time that are difficult. But as Judy said, I mean, I'm very hopeful for Portland. We've got a great young group of people coming up. All 4 of my kids, 24 to 34, all live here in Portland, are raising their families. We all have to get involved. It just cannot be a small group, and it can't be around business groups. It has to be a very diverse, large tent that we erect and we all join. So I'm hopeful.
Okay. Jessica?
You all make me hopeful. I'm glad that we have a really great, energized community that's invested in the city's future. You guys make me very, very hopeful.
Jordan?
Just to piggyback, I think it's these conversations, as well as what makes me hopeful, is just everyone that I know of is beginning to come together and just working as one and doing whatever it takes to make the city of Portland better, not specifically their business, it's the city as a whole. So I think the community aspect and everyone coming together is definitely what makes me hopeful.
Yeah, so looking for those places to come together, looking at those connections. Each of you have talked about different connections that you're making to have things happen. So I think finding the sites of where do people go and how do they get connected, and how do we make sure we're not duplicating efforts or missing things and having gaps will be really interesting. I thought of today as like the beginning of many conversations that we're going to need to have, right? And I think paying attention to that is really important. And yeah, all those outreaches. So Maureen, I think we have some time for questions.
Terrific. Well, thank you all so much. That was really thoughtful and inspiring perspective that you shared. I know I have a lot to think about. There have been several questions in the chat and in the Q&A area, so I will get to those. I think sort of broad scoped where we started this meeting as far as solving the issues that have been discussed and those that we're anticipating. I'm going to go back to Jim's quote at the beginning saying things get better as we all work together rather than siloed. And I think woven throughout the conversation today, that is evidenced through the mayor's action tables, that there was a link in the chat for you all to take a look at what those are. Getting involved there is really important. Amy put a link in about Here Together and Here for Portland. And I think there's a lot of bureaus that are involved in that, and a lot of individual organizations and people. And then Greater Portland Inc. also, that Jim put a contact in there for. Judy mentioned the Public Safety Action Coalition. So I do think there's an awful lot of collaboration and good work happening. So, the results are what I guess people are really interested in hearing about. And I've merged a couple of questions around statistics and shared data and information. So someone had asked about tent counts. We do physical tent counts, and unfortunately they're up a bit month over month. But I do know that we are working on solutions to mitigate that as best we can. The shared data through Central City Concern, we've got a lot of information as far as exactly, how much trash is being picked up, and working with the Clean and Green group. Solve was mentioned, and Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and several organizations that are all working together to do cleanups. We also are talking with the Portland Police Bureau and the Mayor's Office, and they are providing for us updates on what we might expect to happen in the next couple of days. That is being messaged through our rapid response email distribution. And Amy, if you wouldn't mind, Amy Lewin, just putting that link in the chat. It's a great way for people to be informed, and that list is growing, very easy to sign on to. Another one of the questions had to do with, well, I guess it's going to be twofold. The homeless situation is tough. I believe John Isaacs is on the phone or on the Zoom call. I'd like him to talk a little bit about the Here Together program. But prior to that, a question was asked of the panelists today. What would you advocate for in terms of resources for homelessness and the whole houseless community? Are there particular things that you would like to bring up before we get to John with what some of the formalized things are? Jim, you want to start?
I'm happy to jump in. I believe this is unfortunately more of a triage situation, and we need to get people help now. And, to tolerate what's going on the streets and the activity level that it is, it's an unworkable situation for people that are in crisis. So we have allocated huge amounts of money through the metro tax and through the city's local tax. But I think to assume that this population we're going to get into permanent housing in any time soon is going to be a very difficult stretch. So I've advocated, and I will continue to advocate for more of a triage of getting people off the streets into tents, into areas where we can take care of them, get them mental health counseling, getting them drug counseling. But the way we're doing it now will continue to be an issue if we think all the people that are tenting are going to come off and go into permanent housing. It won't happen quick enough, and I think the loss of lives, and we're just going to continue to get worse and worse.
Thank you. Do our other panelists have something they'd like to add to that? Judy.
I live on the Jameson Square Park. I look out my window every day and I see the activity, and I realize that the sounds in the park have changed from when I first lived here. Used to be the laughter of children, and now it's the wailing of mentally ill people. And the mental illness aspect to me is such a huge piece. We lump homeless into one title, one stereotype, and there's the mental illness. Every homeless person is traumatized. And so many of those homeless people don't want to go inside. They're afraid. And so, as Jim said, it needs to be triaged, and mental illness is, to me, the biggest piece. And then there's the criminal activity that is also a part of the homelessness. Those people somehow need to be sorted out. So I would say dollars to help the mentally ill. There needs to be more social work available to the mentally ill and figure out what is the best route for them to go for. That would be my first advocacy.
Thank you. Jordan or Jessica, anything you'd like to add?
I just want to say, it's complicated. To continue doing status quo just isn't proving to be enough. But again, multifaceted. So resources in favor of that. When you look at budgets, and you sort of like evaluate, where money goes, life safety is always priority, right? That seems to be number one. So I guess that's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
For me, it is complicated. I'm on 4th and Davis. I have probably 20 tents around my store. I deal with it every day. I've spoken with a few of the people in the tents, and the reason it's complicated is because it's not just all criminal activity. There are a lot of people who need help. Some of them actually shop in our store. So it's a situation where I do feel bad for a lot of the people outside of my store, because a lot of them are just normal people. They just were put into a bad situation. They shop in my store. And then there's the other half of them who are bad apples, and there needs to be a solution there. That solution I can't tell you, because I can't tell you which tents are whose. I can't tell you who's doing what. I just know that not all of the tents around my store are bad people, and it's hard to decipher who gets what, who deserves what. It's complicated. I don't have an immediate solution, but I do think that some of these people definitely need help, and they would love to use the help because they are normal, in my opinion, or normal enough. It's just they were put in a bad situation. So.
Thank you. I will add that A Home for Everyone, our Here Together program, has infused the county with some dollars, and I sit on the collaborating board, and Andrew Hone sits on the board of A Home for Everyone. And these issues that you're talking about really are being focused on, as far as not just housing, temporary or permanent shelter, but addiction treatment, mental health, wraparound social services. So, you know, all of those conversations are on the table. And I think, what was the phrase I heard the other day? It all works out in the end. And if it hasn't worked out, then it's not the end. And right now it's not the end yet. We still have some work to do, but we're making really great progress.
So can I ask a question? Yeah, when you talk about progress and all that, I guess my question for you, or for those of you who are in Home for Everyone, when can we expect to see the impacts of your work? Is it going to be like a slowly? Do you feel like it's starting? I guess just maybe giving all of us who are involved in telling our own customers and constituents what's going on, sort of something around it, any kind of timeline.
Yeah, I think that you'll see some impact, some true impact in the summer. The dollars will start to be utilized in July. And yes, it's going to be a long process. We're looking at, you know, a year to 5 years probably before we see real turn of the corner. But you should start seeing some improvement in July. And looking at the time, we are 1 minute away. So I am just going to say thank you all. We could talk about this for hours, but since we've run out of time, I just appreciate all of you joining this month's forum. We look forward to seeing you all at a future event. Please continue to join us. We do have our business leadership evening coming up on the 28th, and the first ever Rose City 5K run. And that's in May. There will be more details coming. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of our attendees. We have a big group today. And as I mentioned, we'll continue to share updates with you online and through social media. All of you enjoy this lovely weather, and let's keep plugging along. We're making progress.